Listen, I'm trying to learn, I'm dabbling in the college game. It was never my thing, but your alma mater, Texas, where you're a legend and always will be, they open up against Colorado State. You, my friend, first of all, how do you think that game is going to go? It doesn't sound like it's going to be close.
I mean, you know how it is. Well, I guess you don't because you're not a college football fan, but usually, Texas has a couple of easy games to start the season to get tuned up. But it's a good chance to see what they got, what's under the hood. There's one thing in practicing against your own guys, but when you get to hit somebody else, you get to see who you really got.
We just had George Kittle telling you he would have loved to block for you because he wants a piece of that 6,279 career rushing yards that you had at Texas. What is it like, Ricky Williams, sort of knowing that there's a record no one's going to touch?
Well, I broke a lot of records in college. I broke a couple of records in the NFL too. But at first it was cool, but you get to the point where it just becomes a mindset. Is that you go out there and you try to do your best, and when your best breaks records, it becomes a bit of a habit.
Let's go into your NFL career for a bit. Let's go to 2008. This is what my producers wanted to bring up. We were watching it this morning. It was Week 12. You're home against the Patriots. Chad Pennington, who we love, he lofts you one in the corner. Talk me through this.
Okay, yeah. So what I loved about this season is I got a chance to catch the ball a little bit more. And we had this play in the red zone where I get to run a wheel route, and usually I get one-on-one against a linebacker. And my whole life as a kid, I wanted to make a diving catch in the end zone. And this is the only time in my career that I had the opportunity, and luckily I was able to seize the moment.
You were talking, I'm interested because you're saying it's a mindset, like the record becomes a mindset. I've never heard that before. I want to have a better understanding of that. How do you do that? How do you transition that? And why have I never heard that before?
I don't know. Maybe you don't talk to people who have broken 22 college football records every day, but maybe you do. So I think all football players will talk about the physical game, and most of them will talk about the mental game. And I think the mental game is just as important. And a big part of the mental game is, what are you telling yourself? And for me, I love to practice. And so I had a mindset that I practiced a certain way. And when I started to see a connection between the way that I practice and records starting to fall, I connected my mindset to breaking records, and it became the way that I worked.
So you manifested that? Because I think a lot of people would say, I want to break records. It doesn't happen.
But there has to be a connection between the inner mindset and the external result. Because a lot of people think they're doing things the right way, but they don't get the external result, and they just complain about it. And for me, if my mindset wasn't getting me the external result I wanted, I kept tweaking it until it did. And once it did, I locked it in.
It's incredible. I love hearing about that. I think it sounds like it's all about balance, but it also, the external fact. Why are you laughing? Why are you laughing?
It's funny because just my life, I was a football player, and listening to George Kittle talk, it took me back to that mindset and the mental part of the game planning, but also the physical part. And now what I'm doing as an astrologer it seems on the outside so different. And it's just interesting to me when I go back into the football world and we're talking about the other stuff. It's cool and it's different, but sometimes it makes me laugh.
Okay, well, I love that it makes you laugh. Let's get into the astrology. And Nick Saban and astrology, not a conversation I've ever had. So you get to Miami in 2005. You said that Saban was more of a shaman than a coach. And I know that you sort of looked at his chart. How do you explain Nick Saban?
Well, that he's deep, And when I say deep, it's something about football where it's like a war in a sense, and you have to be able to put aside your fears and all the little stuff aside and be able to show up. And so that's another way of thinking about getting to the core of things. And he just had this ability to get players to forget about the crap and just focus on what was really important. And, shamans are healers. And, my joke is one of the diseases that I had as a football player was I fumbled more than average. And if you look at my stats, the year that I fumbled the least was the year I played for Nick. And it was something about the way he would talk to me every day in practice and the things that he would say to me that got my mind to think a certain way and really helped me do a better job protecting the ball. And he had like this Jedi mind trick kind of thing, So So the year that I played for Nick, I was suspended for the first 4 games of the year. And so I was off, and I was thinking all the things I was going to do in those 4 weeks off. And Nick calls me in the office and he sits me down and he says, I have a great idea. He says, I think after we're done practicing, and we practiced in the morning because Miami was so hot. And so after practice was the hottest time in the day. So I said, I think after practice, you should go out in the field and have your own practice. He said, I'll get one of the trainers. They'll give you handoffs. They'll throw you. All right. And in my mind, I was saying, hell no. But the words that came out of my mouth was, sure, coach. And, and I have to say, I'm glad I did it because it got me in great shape and ended up having a really good year.
So, I mean, I'm looking at the numbers now. You fumbled once that year.
Yeah.
You fumbled 7 times the year before that, and you hadn't fumbled fewer than 6 times in a season before Saban. You're saying it's a Jedi mind trick. It's the things that he would say to you in practice. Can you share some of those things? What were the messages he would give you consistently like that?
Well, I think the general idea of the shaman or psychotherapist is to help you get over your stuff, And when you're trying to perform, whatever your stuff is, it gets in the way of you performing at your best. And he just had a way to know to get to the bottom of your stuff. So he just kept poking on. He knew that I wanted to be the best. So he just would keep talking to me about being the best. And he might say something like, the best running backs always return to the huddle with the ball. Just these things that connected the things that were important to me to things that were important to him that he knew would help us win.
You have this astrology app. You're co-founding it. It's very cool. Congratulations on that. It's called Leela. You're calling it an astrology app for grown-ups. You can get it on the App Store. You can get it on Google Play. You're launching it, which is amazing. And you are a chart reader. You are very into astrology, and relating it to football, to the NFL, to things you're so passionate that you were so successful at. I'm seeing that and my production staff was obsessed with Saban's a double Scorpio. What do I need to know about that?
Well, I did the interpretation already.
Okay.
And Scorpios need intensity. They need it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so there's certain ways, certain places you can go in life and people don't want intense people around. But one of the beautiful things about football is you need intense people around. And one of the things I talk about at greatness is finding the environment that needs exactly who you are and what you have to offer. And I talk about astrology, and I don't so much apply it to football, but I use everything I learned in football and I apply it to astrology. And so I say astrology for grown-ups because if you've ever been in an NFL meeting room or NFL locker room, the way the coach talks to us and the expectations of don't make any excuses, that you have a job to do your job or we'll find someone else to do it. Like that kind of mentality is the kind of mentality I bring to astrology. So it's a different kind of astrology. It's not fluff. It's not frou-frou. It's about you have a job to do. You have the tools to be able to do that job. Now you got to do it.
And you applied your work, I would say, your passion with astrology and this next level that you're taking it to. And you sort of, I don't want to say it the wrong way, like you read charts of people, right? Like you read, is that true?
Well,
don't laugh at me, just educate me.
Yeah, from the outside.
Okay.
I'm laughing at it's not even you, it's just the general idea about astrology. So again, I approach everything like a football player. And so on Wednesdays we show up to work and we have a scouting report and we have a game plan.
Okay.
Is that the coaches have done all the work to figure out what they think is going to help us win.
Yeah.
And then they give us the tools to be able to do it. And so when I look at someone's chart, I look at it more as like a scouting report and a game plan. Because life is busy, right? And most of what we know about ourselves is what we learn from our parents and our friends and stuff outside. And astrology is a good way to learn about ourselves from the inside out. And so I help people get a sense of who they really are and how to be themselves on purpose. And one of the things I can say that I did well in my career is I was able to be myself. And I find a lot of people struggle with that. And so I use the chart to help encourage people to be themselves.
That is really potent. That is a really beautiful thing. And you were always yourself. And it's amazing. I'd love to talk to you for like 9 hours about like what the NFL is like now and what you went through and the struggle of being yourself. But did you find it a struggle? Like when you look at how things are now, like, even with advancements in like just people's thinking being more progressive about certain things, like, are you like, where was this when I was playing?
Well, I kind of am, but I like to think that it is like this now because of the way that I was when I played. And I had a moment when I got suspended where all the articles were saying that I threw my life away, and I started thinking about it, and I said, is that true? And I thought, well, what decides is that true is what I do, is the choices that I make moving forward.
Yeah.
And so, and I was able to move forward being myself, and the NFL allowed me to come back, and they gave me a little bit more space to be myself. But I see since that point that players are given more and more freedom to express themselves and be themselves. And I don't feel bad about it. I feel like, I helped us get there. So it's a wonderful thing for me to see.
It's beautiful. And everybody can go download the app. It's Leela, an astrology app for grown-ups, available. It's about from the inside out. It's a great tool, as I'm understanding it, about getting to understand yourself, which
exactly.
is awesome. So, okay, great. I've got it. We got there.
You got it. Yeah.
Check it out on the App Store, guys. It's available there and on Google Play. Heisman Trophy winner and Pro Bowl running back, or All-Pro running back, rather. Ricky Williams, thanks, man. Appreciate you.
Yeah, it was great talking with you.
Great talking with you, too. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. You can subscribe right here to get the latest from the show and check out more of the best clips from Up and Adams, or go watch a few segments from other shows on FanDuel.